The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, the kind of gray, ordinary Tuesday that doesn't warn you it's about to change your life. Ethan Cole almost threw it away. He had just come home from a 12-hour shift repairing circuit boards at Nexora Technologies, his fingers still smelling faintly of solder and metal. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, and embossed with gold letters. It looked like it belonged in a different world, a world of silk gowns and crystal chandeliers, not oil-stained toolboxes and second-hand jackets. He frowned at the return address. Nexora Technologies, its employer. Inside was an invitation to the annual Nexora Gala, an extravagant event hosted at the prestigious Aurora Grand Hotel downtown. It was the kind of event where executives signed million-dollar deals over champagne and influencers posed in gowns that cost more than Ethan's yearly rent. He read the line twice. "We would be honored by your presence." Honored? He almost laughed. "Dad, what is it?" asked a small voice from the kitchen doorway. Mia Cole stood there in her oversized sweater, her dark curls tied into a messy ponytail. See ponytail. She was 11, but carried herself with a quiet composure that often made strangers assume she was older. "It's nothing," Ethan said automatically. She crossed her arms. "You always say that when it's something." He smiled despite his exhaustion and handed her the invitation. Her eyes widened as she read, "The Nexora Gala? The CEO will be there, right?" Yeah, Ethan said carefully. A Victor Langford himself. He didn't say the rest. Victor Langford, the brilliant, intimidating CEO who had built Nexora into a global powerhouse. A man who rarely even glanced at technicians like Ethan. A man whose shoes probably cost more than Ethan's monthly grocery bill. "Are you going?" Mia asked. Ethan hesitated. A memory surfaced, laughter in the break room that afternoon. A couple of junior managers whispering when the invitations were handed out. One of them saying, "Wouldn't it be hilarious to see the repair guy at the gala?" He had felt the heat rise in his face, but kept his head down. This invitation wasn't an honor. It was a joke. "I don't think it's for people like me," Ethan said quietly. Mia's brow furrowed. "What does that mean?" He sighed and sat down at the small kitchen table. "It means sometimes people invite you somewhere not because they want you there, but because they think it's funny." Her expression changed, not confused, not sad, serious. "Are you scared?" she asked. The question hit harder than he expected. "I'm not scared," he said, though part of him wasn't sure that was true. She walked over and placed the invitation back in his hands. "Ugo," she repeated. "If they think it's a joke, let them laugh. But don't decide you don't belong before they do." Those words stayed with him all night. The challenges Ethan had faced in his life were never glamorous. 5 years ago, his wife, Lila, had died suddenly from a rare heart condition. One moment, she was laughing in the kitchen. The next, she was gone. Ethan had been left with grief so heavy it felt physical, and a 6-year-old daughter who looked at him like he was her entire world. He had no time to fall apart. He worked double shifts. He learned how to braid hair from YouTube tutorials. He packed lunches, attended parent-teacher conferences, and fixed broken gadgets for neighbors to earn extra money. There were nights when he sat alone after Mia went to bed, staring at unpaid bills. Nights when he questioned whether he was enough. But every morning, Mia would smile at him like he was the strongest man alive. That was enough to keep going. The day of the gala arrived like a storm cloud. Ethan owned exactly one suit. It was charcoal gray, slightly too big at the shoulders, and a relic from a job interview years ago. Mia insisted on helping him get ready. "You look handsome," she said, adjusting his tie with exaggerated seriousness. "We look like I'm going to a funeral," he muttered. She shook her head. "You look like someone important." He forced a smile. He didn't tell her about the whispers at work. He didn't tell her how the HR coordinator had smirked when handing him the envelope. He didn't tell her how he overheard someone say, "This is going to be hilarious." Instead, he kissed Mia's forehead. He'd be good for Mrs. Ramirez next door. She grabbed his hand before he could leave. "A dad?" "Yeah." "If anyone tries to make you feel small, remember you fix things they can't even understand." He swallowed hard. "I will." The Aurora Grand Hotel glittered like a palace. Crystal chandeliers illuminated marble floors. A red carpet stretched from the entrance to the ballroom doors. Luxury cars lined the curb. Ethan felt like he had stepped into someone else's life. He gave his name at the entrance. The attendant scanned the list. "Yes, Mr. Cole, welcome." The way the man's eyebrow lifted slightly didn't go unnoticed. Inside, the ballroom was a sea of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. Laughter echoed off high ceilings. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Ethan moved carefully, aware of every scuff on his shoes. Then he heard it, a chuckle behind him. Oh well, I'll be damned. He actually came. Ethan turned. 3 men from upper management stood near the champagne table. Nathan Whitmore, Daniel Cho, and Gregory Pierce. Their smiles weren't kind. I didn't think you'd show, Nathan said. I was invited, Ethan replied evenly. Daniel grinned. That's what makes it fun. The words burned. Fun. Ethan felt every eye in their small circle. A couple of nearby guests were already pretending not to stare. He could leave. He could walk out and protect what little pride he had left. But then he remembered Mia's voice. Don't decide you don't belong before they do. He straightened his shoulders. Foya. Enjoy your evening, gentlemen, he said calmly and walked away. The first hour was excruciating. Conversation stopped when he approached. Waiters offered drinks with polite smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. A woman asked him if he was part of the catering staff. He shook his head and kept moving. Then the lights dimmed. A spotlight illuminated the stage. Victor Langford stepped forward. Tall, commanding, impeccably dressed. His silver-streaked hair caught the light. He didn't need a microphone to command attention, but he had one anyway. Welcome, he began, his voice smooth and confident. But tonight, we celebrate innovation, resilience, and the people who make Nexora what it is. Ethan listened carefully. Resilience. Interesting word. Victor spoke about record-breaking profits, global expansion, and upcoming projects. Global expansion. Applause followed every polished sentence. Then he smiled. And as part of our tradition, we'd like to spotlight a few special guests. Ethan's stomach dropped. Nathan Whitmore appeared beside the stage, whispering something into Victor's ear. Victor's gaze scanned the room. Then it landed on Ethan and Ethany. And Mr. Ethan Cole, Victor announced. The spotlight swung. Blinding light engulfed him. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Please join us on stage. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. This was it. The punchline. He walked forward anyway. Each step felt heavier than the last. On stage, Victor extended a hand. His grip was firm, but cool. Mr. Cole works in our technical repair division, Victor said into the microphone. A fixing devices most of us wouldn't even know how to open. A faint ripple of laughter. Ethan felt the humiliation rising like heat. Victor continued, we thought it would be inspiring to show how diverse our Nexora family truly is. The tone wasn't cruel, but it wasn't respectful either. Ethan opened his mouth to speak. Nothing came out. He saw faces in the crowd, some amused, some sympathetic, some indifferent. Then something unexpected happened. A voice cut through the room. Dad! Every head turned. Mia stood at the back of the ballroom, in her school uniform, breathless. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. Amia? What are you doing here? She ran forward, ignoring the stunned stares. Mrs. Ramirez trailed behind, apologizing to security. Mia reached the stage and looked up at Victor Langford. You're the CEO, right? Victor blinked, surprised. Yes, I am. She turned to the microphone before anyone could stop her. Her voice trembled at first, but then it steadied. You said tonight is about resilience. The room fell silent. My dad fixes things all day. But that's not the hardest thing he does. Ethan felt his chest tighten. He wakes up at 5 every morning to make my breakfast. He learned how to braid hair after my mom died because I didn't want to be the only girl in class without braids. He stayed up all night helping me build my science project even when he had work the next day. The audience shifted uncomfortably. He's never missed a parent-teacher meeting. He fixes neighbors' phones for free when they can't afford it. And when our heater broke last winter, he worked 3 extra shifts so I wouldn't be cold. Victor's expression changed. The amusement vanished. If you invited him here as a joke, Mia continued, her eyes shining but fierce, then you don't understand what resilience means. You could have heard a pin drop. My dad isn't the lowest person in your company, she said. He's the strongest. The words hung in the air. Victor Langford froze completely. For a long moment, no one moved. Then something shifted in his face, something raw and unguarded. He looked at Ethan. He looked at Ethan. Not as a technician, as a man. Victor cleared his throat. Young lady, what's your name? Mia Cole. Oh well, Mia, Victor said slowly. You just gave the most important speech of the night. A murmur of agreement spread. Victor turned back to the crowd. I owe Mr. Cole an apology. Gasps. He faced Ethan directly. Tonight was meant to celebrate resilience, and I allowed this moment to become something else. That was my failure. Ethan stared at him, stunned. Victor continued, Mr. Cole, Nexora would not function without people like you. Not just because you fix our technology, but because you embody what it means to endure and lead quietly. He stepped back from the microphone. And starting tonight, we will be launching a new initiative. One that highlights and rewards the unsung heroes of this company. Applause. Indeed. Genuine. Victor crouched slightly to meet me as eye level. A thank you, he said softly. Ethan felt tears sting his eyes, tears he hadn't allowed himself since Layla's funeral. He looked at his daughter. She had walked into a room full of power and refused to be intimidated. She had said what he never could, and in doing so, she had changed something far bigger than one embarrassing night. In the weeks that followed, Nexora did change. Victor Langford personally visited the technical division. Policies shifted. Recognition programs were introduced, and pay structures were reviewed. But the biggest change wasn't corporate. It was personal. Ethan no longer walked through the halls with his head slightly lowered. People greeted him differently, not because of pity, because of respect. One evening, as they sat on their worn-out couch, Mia looked up at him. See? I told you. He smiled. You were right. No, she said thoughtfully. You were brave first. I just reminded them. Ethan wrapped his arm around her. Life didn't magically become easy. Bills still existed. Grief still lingered in quiet moments. But something had shifted. He understood now that dignity isn't given by titles or tuxedos. It's earned in kitchens at 5 a.m., in hospital waiting rooms, in cold winters, and long shifts. And sometimes, the most powerful voice in the room belongs to the smallest person brave enough to speak. That night at the gala, a CEO froze, but a daughter rose, and a single dad realized he had always belonged exactly where he stood.